This episode of Walt Disney World Today is being sponsored by Owner's Locker, which is a great service for storing all of your junk. Yes, we all have junk that we bring back and forth to our trips to Walt Disney World, so why not leave your unwanted junk in Orlando, and then when you come back, have that junk delivered to your resort on your next trip. It's a great service that I personally use on all my trips where I stay on Disney World property. So why not go on and give it a try? Visit them at www.ownerslocker.com.
Time is so far away. You're counting down the seconds every single day. What are you to do? Well, there's one venue I recommend you turn to, where your magic withdrawal will finally be cured. Spend 3 days a week with Super Walt Disney World nerds. You can depend on Matt, Mike.
It's Monday, May 12th, 2008, and this is episode 408 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from StudioCentral.com, broadcasting live from Stormalong Bay here at the beautiful Disney's Yacht Club. Yay! Sitting literally to my left is Mike Scopa of allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, I can't hear you.
Oh, that's Toy Story Mania.
No.
But who is saying it?
Oh, Mr. Potato Head.
That's right, you hockey puck.
You know he's been waiting to use that all day.
Also on the show today is Len Testa, co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome on.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding. It's weird. I can actually make eye contact. I'm like looking at the table because usually that's how we record. I'm looking at the ceiling or something. I actually look at who I'm talking to. And also here is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here in person with everybody.
Yeah, we're recording again live from the Stormalong Bay.
Hey, Vicky, how's it going?
We just finished a grueling day at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I say grueling simply because it was just so oppressively hot and humid, an emphasis on humid.
Yes.
But we did have an opportunity. This was, of course, the weekend of the annual pass previews. Also, Disney Vacation Club had previews also simultaneously going on. And all four of us had a chance to ride. I had ridden last weekend for the first time during the cast member previews, but the three of you guys had ridden Toy Story Mania now for the first time. So we've all ridden. We should mention for our listeners who want to keep Toy Story Mania a surprise for you, this is not an episode you should probably turn off this episode, in fact, because we're going to be dealing with many spoilers here. But there's some people who don't care, or some people who have ridden and want to hear it. At any rate, if you don't want to hear spoilers, now's the time to turn it off.
Yeah, I went into it blind, and that's the best way to do it. Actually.
I don't think I gave you guys any revealing information.
I didn't look at photos. I didn't look at any YouTube videos of it. I just went into play.
Yeah,
obviously I did not either because when I wrote it. So let's start out with the big question. The question really about the ride. How do you guys like the ride, Mike? What was your first overall impression?
I think overall I'd say it's an e-ticket ride. I think
Really?
that what I enjoy about it the most, and I usually rate all these attractions by this barometer, and that is that it fits the bill of what Walt Disney wanted a long time ago, and that is it's a family-oriented ride. Everybody who can sit up and meet the height requirements should and will enjoy this ride. The big key is that, as well as the interactivity. And because of the interactivity, every experience, every ride will be different than the previous one. So I give it a 2 thumbs up.
That's exactly what Disney was gunning for, I think, really.
Yeah,
everything for the family, and they want to be able to rewrite it about 1,000 times.
Right.
Oh yeah, they definitely got the rewritability part of it. Right? You said it was a D ticket or an E ticket?
I said it was an e-ticket.
An E.
I mean, maybe DE, but
I would say it's probably a D. I would
agree with
the
you.
unofficial guide would probably give it 4 stars out of 5. I think it's a very solid ride. It's not on the same type of scope as say Splash Mountain or Everest or anything like that. So and those are really 5-star rides. But it's a very solid 4-star ride. The thing I think they did really well were the graphics, the frenetic pace of it, and it's very easy to play. Actually, I think in some ways it's actually easier to aim this than it is Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, I would agree with that. Buzz
Yeah.
Lightyear, you spend most of the ride trying to figure out which dot is yours.
Which red dot is yours?
Yeah.
And this is, the configuration. Matt, you had said before that it took a little, one entire ride through to get the feel of the game. I got it really during the first part of the practice.
Yeah,
it worked out really well.
That's good.
I think the other thing that they did really well is they put a lot of easy targets within reach of kids.
Yeah.
So that's somebody really thinking through there, because there were kids on the vehicle on either side of me, on the vehicles on either side of me, and they got scores well into the many dozens of thousands.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Newell, what did you think?
I love that. That was fantastic. It was going into it blind. It was much better than I anticipated. I thought the theming, even the queue line theming, was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Brought back a lot of childhood memories of all the games and toys that I had.
Well, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about, because was the queue. I mean, the ride itself is a lot of fun, and we like it a lot, but I think the queue really stands out. It's one of those great examples of Disney's theming ability. You know, it's not just a line. It's
Right.
an interactiveness. There's obviously Mr. Potato Head is in the line, but there's so much more to it. And Mike, you talked about the toys that are in there, you know, from your childhood. But well, I thought we could talk a little bit about the queue and how impressive it is. And it's following the tradition that Disney's kind of started just long ago. They did it, you know, Splash Mountain to an extent, but really Everest was the one we really started seeing a story being told.
Right.
And here in Toy Story Midway Mania, there's a story being told over here. And I was telling Scopa and Newell when we were in line, you know, the story going on here. For those listeners unaware, what's happening is that in the attraction, the exterior is themed to Pixar Place and that Pixar Studios, which is of course the studios that created Toy Story. And what's happening is basically the film, Toy Story, is spilling out from the building itself, because the movie like resides in over there, kind of like Ghostbuster kind of thing.
Right.
And so what's happening is Andy bought Midway Carnival game, and Andy went out to dinner or something, and so
He just left.
so now the toys have gotten a hold of it. Now they're getting to play with it. And Andy has so many toys that they're spilling out. So you see out in the street, the Green Army Men have used the monkeys in a barrel to get across the way over there. And as soon as you walk in over there, you're instantly like shrunk down in level of a toy, because you go right in there and you can see it looks like you're a toy because you're the size of, like, you know, the electrical outlet is way ahead up above you as soon as you walk in over there.
Yeah.
So what were your guys' thoughts of tell us a little bit about the queue line, some interesting elements you found.
One of the things that you mentioned and you pointed out right from the start, Matt, is that just like Everest, well, in this case, the single rider line is very, you know, if you want to get on there faster, sure, take it, but you will miss out on the queue,
Yes.
as you would if you went with a fast pass at Everest instead of
And
going
I
through the
actually did
standby.
the single rider line, so I didn't get to see Mr. Potato Head in the.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to go
so
back
you
and-
missed that.
Because you bypass it just
Well,
like
I went back and saw it. Yeah,
It's a much shorter. I mean, you still see the elements, but it's much briefer.
Yeah, and
And-
you don't see. You sort of see a couple of walls worth of games, but you don't really
Yeah.
actually see them up close or anything. And the other thing I would say about the single rider line, it was totally mismanaged.
Yeah, we
We actually waited longer in the single rider line than I would have
Well,
in the
we-
standby line. So I
we
don't
experienced
know that
that
I would
too.
recommend the.
Yeah, while we were waiting, when you get to that, there's a tent area where you go up a
Yeah.
flight of stairs to go over the ride to come back down. That single rider line never seemed to
That
move.
never moved,
Yeah,
no.
while we were
When we
going
loaded
past.
on, there was not a number of us, and the woman who was in the head of the single rider line, when we said we were 5, which is an odd number because the cars load even numbers,
Right.
she was like, "Yes!" Like, you know, like
Thank
She
God.
apparently been waiting there for a while.
yeah,
I waited 50 minutes to get down the stairs.
yeah.
Are you
Which
Wow.
is like, I mean, it was like a dozen stairs.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had,
No,
it wasn't
they
even-
they
I had a
totally
very similar
mismanaged it.
experience when I rode last week. Also, it's same. I mean, just I don't know if it's the cast members being ineffective, like not trained properly
I
how to
think
use
it
it,
is.
or it's just everyone's coming in pairs.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it can't be.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, you have to have the occasional odd one. I think the cast members aren't trained correctly, because I had actually spoken to one, about it, because by the time I got to load, I'd pointed out that I would have been better off waiting in the standby line
As a single.
than in the single line. And the cast member said essentially, yeah, but we don't guarantee that in the single rider line. Like, well, but you pretty much have to. Otherwise, why would anyone get in the single rider line?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, why would you?
Weird.
Why would you get in a line that's longer for?
I'm guessing.
And to not ride with someone. That doesn't
I'm
make any-
guessing that what's happened is that when you get into that single rider line,
Yeah.
the only time that line will move will be when there's when there's three people at a time.
Yeah,
Then
right.
you've got
An odd number,
You've
yeah.
got an odd number. So,
But even then, though,
that's
they
not
should
gonna work.
even though they should make the single rider line move. They should take even numbers out of the
Yeah,
single rider line. every
the
once in a
point
while.
of contention there I want to point out is Rock and Roller Coaster is similar loading. It's 2 per row, so kind of similar
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
that- in how it is. And that one loads very fast. The single rider line moves
Yeah,
pretty
it-
at
I
a
mean,
good clip.
there was just there were kids managing mine today for the first hour, and that's why it didn't. That's why it didn't work well. As soon as they got somebody in
Yeah.
who had been on other rides before,
Yes.
it picked up.
That's probably to be expected on a ride that just came online. They're not sure.
Well,
The,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a different configuration than Test Track.
Yeah. I think overall you know what else I like too, by the way, the outside theming of the
Yes.
pavilion. So it looks like there's going to be a restaurant on the other side of.
It's more like a snack bar.
Snack bar,
Selling
okay.
like chips and drinks. Kind of similar to, the temporary
gift
ones you
shop.
see outside Tower and Coaster.
So why isn't there a gift shop at the end of the ride?
There's going to be a gift shop across from the ride also.
Street, okay.
Yes.
But not directly exiting like in
Not
Star Tours.
direct- yeah, which is interesting. There is no, you just dump back out onto Pixar Place.
So here's the question. I'm thinking that when that shop opens, that you'll be able to go in there and buy Ticker Toys. You're going to be able to buy Chutes and Ladders. You're going to be able to buy Scrabble.
That would
You're
be
going
smart.
to be able to buy Candyland, maybe Viewmasters. That's what I'm thinking.
Viewmasters is
And
funny.
of course, Mr.
I used to have
Mr.
Viewmasters
Potato
at,
Head.
I loved it.
You know,
And
what was-
this Mr. Spell It.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Spell banana.
Speaking spell.
oh yeah.
Hey, but going back to the ride real quick, I thought the games themselves were relatively simple. I mean, good enough for kids. The one thing I would say is I thought they had enough time for like one more series of games. The ride might have been a bit short, but they could customize the heck out of that ride.
But I don't know, because my arm was killing me towards the end of that.
Yeah. So here's a tip. When you it's the way that you fire the cannon is by pulling a little string out of the cannon, and the string will automatically retract back inside the body of the cannon. You have to let it go all the way back in before you can fire again. That's
Exactly.
a huge tip.
We actually rode that with Danny, one of the cast members, and he and I were talking about this afterwards, and we were talking about the training session
Yeah.
that you go through. And if you remember, early on, before the ride came to be, we heard reports that they were designing it so that it would even out everyone's ability and skill, and that it would adjust accordingly. And we were thinking that adjustment will take place after the training session. Because there's a training session before you actually start
Right.
the scoring.
Where let's see, there's no scoring involved. You're just shooting to
Right.
get the hang of it.
So here's the point. So does that mean that you would purposely do
Sandbag?
terribly
Yeah.
during the training session so that when you actually start the scoring, it's like, oh wow, all of a sudden I'm better.
Yeah, see, I've ridden a couple times now, and I got to the point if the person next to me is doing very badly, I'll notice that on their side of the screen they're getting a lot bigger numbers than I am. Like it'll be more slim pickings, and the game gives them the better things to get because it's got to adjust to their skill level. Where for me, I get there's less of the good options over there. It's it's the lower level.
That explains why Newell beat me today.
Hey, that was.
I got on
skill.
the ride, and there was an older gentleman next to me, and I turned to him and I said, I'm a really bad loser. Let me just set some expectations right now. He's like, okay. I'm just like,
Honey, there's a strange man next to me.
That's why we had the policeman. Yeah, that's why we had
You guys,
security. Yeah.
The highlight of the queue has to be Mr. Potato Head.
Absolutely.
What did you think of Mr. Potato Head, Mike?
Well, he and I had a little discussion before the ride, and I think that obviously it's the next generation of audio animatronics where they make use of animation with the eyes, and the movement was very, very fluid. I'm sure that there's all kinds of stuff going on underneath there. I like the idea that he can interact with the guests, and you talked about how they actually have something like a soundboard that uses.
Yeah, it's not. See, the
Yeah.
thing. This is. I think a lot of people expect it to be like Crush with
Like
Turtle
Crush,
Talk,
right.
where he can be like, hey, Mike Scopa. This is more like a sound, like we call it like soundboard lens. Sometimes we use, and it's a collection of recordings that Don Rickles has recorded as Mr. Potato Head, and there's a cast member backstage who is operating Mr. Potato Head and will pick from that selection.
Right.
It's very developed. I mean, they have like him saying, "Hey, little girl in the green shirt,"
Right.
but he can't say.
Hey,
Len Testa, or you can't go that far. I mean,
Right.
it's somewhat limited in that regard, and to that extent, I mean, I was expecting kind of a Turtle Talk kind of an experience. It's still very entertaining, but I think it's a step below Crush in that regard, partly because I think it's harder to do with Don Rickles impersonation.
We're gonna back up a little bit. Even Crush wouldn't say Len Testa. You're saying you're saying
could,
like
though.
he would say.
Yeah, you
So
can.
what's your name?
and you'd say,
say Mike. Well, hi Mike, how's it going? That's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah, exactly.
There's no.
Yeah, and it's the other
It's
thing
not
is-
reactionary, really.
And
is it?
it's there's a delay. I noticed a delay in between
Right.
things he says because the cast member has to pick what he's going to say next. He's got to
he's
like.
got a mouse to click.
Yeah, I mean, I envision some huge screen in front of him. He's picking
Like a big
what-
Chinese typewriter. That's it. Key phrases.
it's probably
Yeah.
Probably touch. Yeah.
And it's but again, the animatronic is amazing. I mean, one of the things you had mentioned, Mike mentioned in his opening thing, is that Mr. Potato Head actually can take out one of his ears and put it back in.
that was cool.
Right.
And what's
Yeah.
I mean, we think about it, it's very cool because there's an out of the animatronic arm that's going up, grabbing a piece of plastic, taking it out, putting it back in and releasing the hand and going back. I mean,
it's
this
seamless.
isn't. Yeah, this isn't like something that where like the mayor scene in Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
where all he does is go up and down. That's
Right.
his only function. This is like he can do this. He's actually doing it. It's not attached. So to that extent, it's another progression in those audio animatronics. And
We happened to get stuck right in front of Mr. Potato Head for a little while. We were there a good 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we really got to experience that part, and it was really, really
A
neat.
lot of good jokes.
what was
yeah.
the most Len? What was the most surprising thing about Toy Story Mania?
The pace of it, I think, for me was
The ride.
Yeah, it was quick, but it was great. I mean, it was much faster paced than Buzz, I would say. And they're really move you from game to game. There's really no downtime. I liked it quite a bit. I thought that was one of the positive elements of the ride. I mean, by the time we were done, I think everyone wanted more. There were people that were applauding,
Yeah.
the ride.
Yeah.
So.
What surprised you the most?
The queue actually surprised me the most. I didn't think it would be, not that it's very interactive, but it's very detailed.
Yes,
And
it's visually stimulating.
the crayons, I mean, some like you had pointed out, some of the crayons were fresh and some of them were, broken and,
Right,
and
right.
worn down.
Right.
And just a little detail, even that there's a giant Tinker Toy can in the center.
Right.
And the detail of that can that was you could tell it was hand painted. It was just fantastic. It was really well done.
Yeah, Scopa, what surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most, Matt, is that when I was in there and I was observing the technology that was being used, excuse me, the first thing that came to mind was, I wonder where else they could do this and how easy it would be to adjust this, because it's a video screen and it's very easy to adjust. And the other thing I thought about was, boy, I kind of feel sorry for Buzz Lightyear right now, And I was thinking that could they, will they look at Buzz and say, maybe we could adjust Buzz to do this someday. So I was really surprised by how the technology hit me, and even though it's really advanced,
Yeah.
at the same time,
Yeah,
it's simple.
I thought the same thing too. When I was thinking of giving this thing a 4-star rating, my next question was, do I need to knock Buzz Lightyear down
Right.
because of it to like?
'Cause it's not on the
half,
same
3,
level.
3/4?
It's definitely not on the same level.
It's if you look at the two side by side, Buzz Lightyear is much more primitive now. So. I thought it was pretty good. Talking about the attention to detail in the queue, one of the interesting things I saw when I was going up the stairs was the wall is painted in alternate stripes of red and yellow,
Right.
and they had a banister with little metal fixtures in the wall holding up the banister, and they'd actually painted one of the fixtures, one of the things holding up the banister. Then it fell right between the yellow and the red line. They actually painted the little claw thing halfway down the middle, red and yellow, to match the wall behind it. I was
Yeah.
like, only Disney would do that.
Yeah, no, the Imagineers, I tip my hat to them in terms of the attention to detail in this queue. I mean, again, following the tradition of some other attractions before it, I mean, really, it's very well done. It's not plain walls, and
No,
it's very impressive. One of the things we mentioned, I think we were in line, and Scope, I think I was talking to you about this, was because of the appeal of this attraction. This isn't like Tower of Terror Rock and Roller Coaster where you have people who are willing to engage in those kind of thrills. This is an attraction that allows anybody to ride. The only reason you cannot ride this ride is because you choose not to ride the ride.
Yeah, they said anyone who can sit up can ride the ride.
In fact, even if you have an infant, somebody who can't sit up by themselves, they can still ride with you. They just ride on your lap.
Yeah.
So it's not there is no need for anybody to wait behind.
Yeah.
There would be no anxiety. I think that we talked earlier last week on a previous show about how this particular attraction will impact how people tour
Yes.
the studios. And
Yeah, we definitely need to move it up.
Right. And Matt, you hit on this point about everybody and anybody will be able to ride from 6 to 60, from 6 to 80 or whatever. They'll
8 to
want to
88.
ride it. From 8 to 80. And
was it Mad Libs that used to put that on there?
Yeah, it was one of those games that you buy when you drive, when you
Yeah. The one with the little marker and
Yeah,
you
the
would-
little secret,
the secret
pen.
marker.
Nice.
Those are great.
I think that's two things that we've done today. What was the other one? The other
Oh, HBO.
HBO. Yeah, the great movie rides. Like the HBO entrance. Yeah, that was great.
I think that one thing that everyone should realize is that they're going to get a workout when they
Yeah,
go to this.
that's
You were mentioning it to us. You mentioned it to Newell and myself, and I know we were kidding you. What are you, out of shape? Blah 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 blah. And then we went on the ride, and it's like, oh my god! Because when you pull on that cord,
It's a repetitive motion.
Yes.
And what I always tell people is you should alternate arms between games. One game use your right arm, one game use your left arm, and then obviously repeat. And because it's the repetitive motion, it's like if people who play the Nintendo Wii for the first time, they always complain, "Oh, it's great, but my arm is killing me," from
Yeah,
like
right.
tennis or whatever.
Right.
Same
Well,
thing over
that's
here.
the thing. You have to use one hand to actually aim.
It's a
Yes.
cannon.
Yeah,
It's a
right.
And the
cannon.
one to
Yeah.
fire the cannon.
and the
yeah.
other one to fire. So it's not like you could just rest one arm while you're shooting.
Yep.
You have to switch both, and you're using both arms.
Yeah.
And getting hitting on what you talked about anxiety. When we first descended down those stairs, the cars were spinning as they were pulling in. And my first thought was that ride in Universal. What is it?
Men in Black.
Men in Black, exactly. And
Oh, yeah.
I got a little sick on that.
Really?
And I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of those where it
Right.
spins like real fast, and it isn't that bad.
No,
it really
no.
isn't. So I think it is.
No,
it's
the
good
ride,
for
the
everybody.
ride itself is pretty smooth. Yeah.
It's not bad, and it's. Mike even mentioned that it seemed like it was magnets pulling it, and it just
Everything seemed so smooth
Very
and
smooth,
effortlessly, and it was
quiet.
quiet, and it was the pace. Again, Len had mentioned early on about the pace, and it was kind of neat because you just forget about everything, and you're just focusing on the video, and you're focusing on the cannon, and you're focusing on your arm and stuff, and
yeah.
it went by like that.
Let me ask you guys something. One of the knocks that's come on the attraction early on has been that on the ride, when you're in the actual game, there's a noise issue. People are complaining you can hear other games and it detracts from the experience. Did you experience any of that?
I don't recall experiencing that. I think that
Yeah.
for a lot of people, they are going to look at this as being basically a big time video game.
Yeah.
And if you've ever played video games like this, there's always something going on. There's always noise going on. So I think it'll depend upon those experiences. And I'm guessing that those people who haven't had those experiences are not used to it, and so it bothers them.
I've been now 8 times and I haven't.
Yeah.
First of all, I never even noticed it. It's something I always
I didn't even
think about
notice it
later.
at
It's like,
Well,
did I
you're
notice
focusing
that?
on the screen.
Yeah, I never really noticed like, oh, I'm trying to have fun, but there's too much. No, none of you guys experienced.
No, not at all.
Let me ask you this question now. It's May 12th now. Ride is going to be officially opening on the 31st of this month. If you have to go back to the Imagineers and say, ride's great, but improve something. You guys need to fix something before the official opening. Is there anything that you would say you guys should fix?
I don't know if they have enough time, but I would add one more game, and it could be it doesn't have to be like an additional room or anything in the ride, but I think one more game would maybe take it up to another half a star.
Really?
To 4.5. Yeah. I mean, by the fourth one, you kind of got it, and you know how all of the tools work, and I think one more game would be useful.
I have that game, Len. When you're walking along Boardwalk and you get the basketball game? Maybe you could shoot the basket into some.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed when I wrote in the cast member reviews that I noticed changed, I think, was the audio of Mr. Potato Head was very low when I first did it.
Was it?
You really had to be in that first row in order to hear him. And I made a comment to the cast members about it. And this time, I don't think you guys had any problem hearing Mr. Potato Head.
No.
I
They
think he was
must
too
have taken
loud.
your advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was too loud because we were further back, and I started hearing him.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave, because by the time we got to Mr. Potato Head, I had heard
jokes, we had
most
heard
of
the
the
jokes.
jokes.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I just blocked him out. I'm married. I can do that.
And see, now if they had more music in the queue, maybe that would drown it out a little bit, or more
Yeah.
speakers, and we
That's
know when
true.
you're back further.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, because there was no music in that I.
Or you can
Yeah,
just block it
that's a
out.
good point.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been an improvement, like a little
Music?
bit of background music
Some
before
sort of
you.
They
music,
have
yeah.
some music playing. I mean, you can hear it in certain parts. Like it's a Toy Story instrumental.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
very
But
low.
it's not. No, it's very faint and
Yeah.
it's few and
Whatever.
far between.
I mean, I heard Mr. Potato Head from way back, and by the time we got to it, I mean, he was cool seeing him straight up, but
Yeah.
I had heard if he gets what was that phrase he kept saying? He said it over and over again. And we heard it about 100 times.
Oh, I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember it.
I was talking about the weight.
It's not the hands and feet.
No,
ones.
we heard that. We heard
No.
that twice, but it was like
It's like the same.
another thing. He say something like that. It was.
Oh yeah, no. What was I thinking? Oh yeah, back like he.
Where was I?
Yeah, where was I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
because he would always say that whenever he went off on a joke, and then you'd have to. It had to seem like he was like had
Segue
some
back.
sort of a
Right,
line.
yeah.
That's a segue, right? But we heard that over and over again. Like
So, one of the things I guess with the ride, if you're looking at this ride now, and everyone's yawning because it's been a long day.
We haven't even talked about dinner yet.
Looking back on the attraction here, how would you? This would definitely give a thumbs up. This is something you would recommend. This is a
Oh, yeah.
must do in the studios.
Oh yeah.
for everyone
Yeah,
too.
it's top 3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. It's going to be probably going to be on someone's top 7 list too, I guess.
You might see this on the videos at some point when
Yeah,
you're
somewhere.
walking to Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Some voices.
Nice perky brunette.
Yeah. Could be.
Great. Well, that's it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Trouble, you'll find WDW.